All right, I'm going to show you how to not overwrite code. This is a way of altering the functionality of methods, but without overwriting them. So to start with, we're going to uncheck our own plugin. So we're going to disable our own plugin. Now come to plugins and then add a new one, and let's call it Center Gold. So all this is going to do, we'll copy our plugin and paste it into Center Gold. Get rid of this, get rid of that, and then get rid of this. So it's essentially how it used to look, all right? So this Center Gold plugin, all it's going to do is center the text displayed in the menu. So this here, for some reason, I want it to just display right in the middle. So you don't need to worry too much about what I'm going to do here. You just need to sort of see what it does. So we're going to say this dot draw text, and we're going to pass in the text value, which is going to be this dot value plus this dot currency unit. So all we're doing is kind of the same thing here. We're drawing the value of the gold. Maybe we'll add a space as well. And then so this would be, say, like 0 G. So it'll be 0 space G is all we're doing here. And we'll pass in the X and Y and the width. And then we have to pass in an alignment. So I'll say center again. And then we'll delete this entirely. So this is, pretend this is someone else's plugin. All it does is centers the gold in the middle of the window. There we go. So this person created this amazing plugin and we want to use it. So we have added it to our project there. But then we decided we wanted to make this plugin which draws too much gold if there's too much gold and changes the maximum you're allowed to have. This is great. This is a great plugin. And then we say, okay, we've got them both added to our project now. We turn our one back on. Okay, let's go. Play the game. Oh, the text is back aligned to the right. So what we have done here is our plugin is below theirs, which means ours runs after. And that means we have overwritten the refresh method that they have. So window gold starts off with a refresh method. Then the center gold plugin will say, I'm overwriting that method to do what I want. And then our plugin is saying, well, I'm overwriting that again to do what I want. So what if we wanted this functionality of it displaying in the middle, but with our plugin as well? Well, this is where aliasing comes in. So an alias in regular sort of terms means another name. So it's giving something another name. So what we do is we want to put this whole function into a variable, and then we can call that variable or function afterwards when we choose. So let's show, I'll show you how it works, and then hopefully I can describe it in a way that makes sense. So we'll say const window underscore gold, and I'm going to do underscore refresh. All this is a variable name. It can be anything, but a lot of people seem to follow the pattern or naming convention of whatever the class is, and then having an underscore instead of a dot, and then just whatever the method name is, equals window gold dot prototype dot refresh. So we are setting this variable equal to this method. And you can see that this looks different to how we normally do this. Normally, if we're calling this, it would just be the window goal dot refresh and then open and close the parentheses like that. But what we're doing here is saying we don't want to call the function. We simply want to put the contents of the function inside this variable. So the reason why that's useful to us is we can push this code down, and inside this, and inside the refresh method, we can type in the variable name and then do dot call, and this will run whatever was stored inside this variable. But this has no sort of context for what it's doing. You need to pass in this. So even though there are no parameters being passed in here, when you call a method in this way, as in when you alias it, you must pass in this. So now when we run this this bit of code here, we say whatever was stored in here, just run it here. So all of this code, not this stuff, but the original contents of refresh will be ran. But keep in mind, this is overwriting refresh before we use it. So really what we're doing is this variable is equal to this code. Okay? And then afterwards, anything that comes here, all of this code will run, and then our code will run if we put it below. If we instead write code above it and then call it, our code will run, then this code will run. So hopefully that makes sense, because we're going to add even more on top of that. So what if we don't always want this code to run? We don't always want to display the text, the gold text. We don't always want this to run. That's where our if statement comes in handy again. So let's paste our code back in and see if we can do something. So we do want this. We do want this because this is how we tell the system where to draw our text. But so that's still fine. If this value is greater than the gold threshold, draw the text to the screen. Fine. Otherwise, maybe we just want it to run whatever was already there. Then we can take that code out and say, whatever we stored in here, just run that, because that's the normal thing. So if our statement is true, do what we want you to do. Otherwise, else, just do what you've already been told to do in this function. So hopefully that makes sense. So what we are doing here, this code is technically copy and pasted, but that's fine because we do want to get the rect, and we do want to clear the contents before drawing. And we can't leave this out assuming that that is going to do it itself, because then we can overwrite our own text. So yeah, I think I said I would go over what this does, but then I forgot to. So the contents is essentially just the contents of the window. So anything we draw on the window will be removed when we call this contents clear. So the reason why that's useful is if we draw some text to the screen and then we want to draw some other text to the screen. If this wasn't here, if this was commented out, it would continually just draw to the screen. It would overwrite the text and overwrite the text, and it would just keep overlapping. So you just empty what's on the screen first so that the screen is clear before you draw the text. Pretty simple. And so yeah, I think this should be working now. So what happens is we have their plugin first and then our plugin afterwards. And that means we will have the centered gold. Anytime the gold is drawn to the screen, it will be centered. But if our if statement is true, they have too much gold, then we will draw too much gold instead of doing that. So let's see it in action. There it is currently being drawn to the center. We will grab some gold. Still drawn in the center, we'll grab a lot of gold. And now it says too much gold and nothing is being overlapped. There's no text overlapping. Great. So we have now successfully created a plugin that alters functionality and overwrites when it should overwrite, and simply adds to when it should add to and not overwrite. So yeah, using this sort of code where you're just adding to code rather than overwriting it, it makes your plugin so much more compatible with other plugins. Most of the time you will simply add to functionality and you're not going to completely replace it, so other people can be safe adding your plugin to their project. So yeah, when trying to decide whether you should overwrite or whether you should alias, it's just a logic thing. Do you want to change how much gold they can carry? Yes. Well, you don't want to alias this then. You want to overwrite the functionality. Do you want to, I don't know, if you want to change how equipping works on an actor, well, maybe you want to overwrite it, but maybe you simply want to alias it to include your code so that any other code that involves equipping stuff to the actor will still work. So yeah, short video. Hopefully it makes sense. Again, we'll be doing a lot of this when we're doing more example plugins, but this is a good starter for showing you how to alias methods. Thanks for watching. The next video will probably be a difficult one. If you've not seen inheritance before, yeah, it might be something to get your head around. So hopefully, so far it's been easy enough to follow, and I hope you stick with it, and I'll see you in the next video.